This video concerns the problems with the form of democracy used in the United States. Of course, these criticisms will apply to most democratic republics, but I am not an expert on Republican forms of government, so I will use the United States model as my template. I will not be arguing that there is a better alternative to democracy in this video, although I certainly believe that the American Republic could be improved upon. My aim is only to lay out a few of the issues with democracy. Let's begin. The first issue I want to discuss is something that most people know but are shamed into ignoring. The individual citizen's vote will probably not make a bit of difference in any of the elections that they participate in their lifetime. It is simply irrational to vote. The time one spends voting would be better spent writing an editorial in almost every single case. This leaves nearly every citizen completely powerless to control the direction of their country, while they pay for it to go in that direction. Of course, in a tie they could make a difference, but the likelihood of that is so low that voting remains pointless. This leads me to a second issue, which I will phrase as a question. In what sense do representatives actually represent their constituents, especially in a two-party system? When the two electable alternatives do not share even remotely a citizen's perspective, how can that citizen be represented? A helpful example that I'm going to use here was provided to me by a very good episode of Econ Talk, a podcast I mentioned in my last video, to which I will again link in the description box. We're going to imagine you shop for groceries like you vote for candidates. Normally when you shop for groceries, you go through the grocery store and pick out the things you like, and you buy them. If you need potatoes, you pick them out, or you go to the deli for a vegan roast. But now groceries are being bought democratically. Imagine there are two very full carts with two sets of groceries in them. In one there are tomatoes, French fries, Kleenex, macaroni and cheese, and a lot of items you can't even see. In the other there is an equally eclectic set of items. Now, every shopper in the store has certain things in those carts that they want, and some they don't want at all. But we're being democratic, so they, as individuals, can't just pick the one type of cart out of the two that best satisfies their needs. All the shoppers have to decide on the one type of cart with the one set of items that all of them are going to take home, and they're going to do it by voting. Obviously, most people will be extremely unsatisfied. To make the tie to modern democratic republics more obvious, the grocery carts are politicians and their actions are the groceries. While many of us only agree with a politician on one issue, or in the analogy only want one item in the cart, we end up voting for them because we don't agree with anything the other politician says. In both circumstances, most people end up getting a whole bunch of stuff that they don't want. Further complicating the issue is that we cannot be sure that we know everything the politician will do. That is why I said that many of the groceries in the example are hidden. We cannot know everything that a politician will do in their term, so we vote for them without knowing if they will be the alternative who will act in accordance with our preferences. Even further complicating the issue is this. Even the groceries that appear to be potatoes might end up being plastic, or in other words, politicians might lie. They say they will do one thing and they do something different. Is proper representation even possible in such a scenario? It certainly doesn't seem like it. A third issue is what economists call rational ignorance. Since the average citizen can have no real impact on the election, it is rational for them to be ignorant of what the government is doing. There is no real economic advantage in spending time learning about something one can have no influence on, whereas there is an economic disadvantage in unproductively spending time learning outside of school. Special interests do, however, have an economic advantage in learning about the issues that affect them and using what they learn to lobby politicians. In this way, democracies end up with policies that benefit a few rather than the many. The few might be corporations in the top 10%, or it might be farmers who get their crops subsidized. But in the end, the majority of people tend to be worse off when the few use government for personal gain. Another unfortunate consequence of rational ignorance is that money becomes more important in a campaign. Although the evidence I have for this is mostly anecdotal, it does seem likely that the ignorant are more easily swayed by advertising and door-knocking campaigns. We have all met people who say things like, "I think I'll vote for Obama. He just seems like a nice guy." Obviously, they're not basing their decisions on evidence pertinent to the politician's capabilities or the soundness of his or her policies. They are so arbitrary that it seems like it might take a single ad to change their mind about a politician. Since ad and other campaign tactics cost money, a politician can receive loads of money from corporations and turn around and use it to get elected.